Welcome back. With us right now is Captain Larry Kurtz. He's the Public Information Officer with the Orange County Fire Authority, and if you've watched for a while, you know him well, as I do. Always good to see you.
Thank you, Ken. Thanks for having me back in.
Yeah, it's, you know, unfortunately what we're going to talk about this time is the fire season, but particularly what we referred to, or what you guys referred to as the Canyon 2 fire.
Correct.
So, welcome, by the way.
Thank you.
And first explain, let's go back a little bit. There was what was now referred to as the Canyon 1 fire, and then the Canyon 2 fire.
Correct. Now the first fire, we just called it the Canyon fire. We didn't think there would be a Canyon 2 fire. Right. The Canyon 1 fire started at the 91 at Coal Canyon. And that fire, the wind was actually pushing the fire in a north-northwest direction. It actually paralleled the 91 freeway on the eastbound, headed towards Corona.
Right.
So paralleled out there. That took us about a week to get control of that fire. The Canyon Fire 2, which of course we named because it almost started in almost the exact same area where the Canyon Fire 1 started. That was an entirely opposite direction. Now what you have is the winds coming out of the northeast headed toward the southwest, one of the classic Santa Ana conditions that we have. The 91 corridor there headed out to Corona has always been one of the areas they call the wind tunnel of Orange County. And it definitely pushed that fire in a southwesterly direction in a hurry. Here in Southern California, the brush that we have is like a light flashy fuel and a scrub oak. During the winter season that we've had a lot of rain this season. And the great news there is that we've had the drought conditions have eased somewhat. But unfortunately, what it also created is what we call large grass crop. A lot of seeds that were up the hills germinated, create a lot of the grasses. Looks beautiful in the spring. Lots of pretty flowers, lots of grass. Unfortunately, as we come into the summer months, that grass is some of the first stuff that dries out, and it creates a light, flashy fuel. And what we get now is when you have fires that occur there, what occurs is a fast-moving, low-intensity fire. It's different from the fires in Northern California. I was actually up in the Klamath National Forest for a couple weeks. People think forest fire, they think the big tall trees, slow moving, 100-foot tall fire. Here it's a faster moving fire, but a less intense fire. We really have to run to keep up with this fire. And that was the big issue with the Canyon 2 fire, was number one, getting ahead of the fire, and number two, the introduction of some neighborhoods in the path of the fire.
Which was obviously unfortunate. In fact, here, pictures right along. Looks like, is that Santiago Canyon area?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, in fact, we drove through there just this weekend on our way up to Orange and all, and of course everything's blackened there. This is right by the Irvine Regional Park, which I understand some of their stables
did burn.
Yeah.
We had a total of 60 structures that were damaged and or destroyed as a result of the fire. Some of them, unfortunately, were residential homes. We try and do a lot of things. When the fire comes into these areas, obviously one of the first things we're looking at is evacuation of these homes. When we look into evacuation, the Anaheim Hills area, we consider it very, very carefully. We don't take it lightly. A lot of people think, it's a knee-jerk reaction. We just say, evacuate. No, we think about it very carefully, because what you're introducing is close to 5,000, even 10,000 people all of a sudden flooding the streets, where you already have heavy equipment, fire engines, fire trucks, crews, lots of things going on. So we try and come up with a way to stagger the evacuation of these neighborhoods in a way that people can get out with enough time. One of the issues up north, some of the Santa Rosa fires, I'm sure all of our viewers have seen, was the fact that people didn't feel they had enough time. So we try and give enough of a time cushion for people to get out. Plus we need to think of some place for them to go. Law enforcement is usually the agency that is responsible for evacuating these homes.
Where they, where they coordinate it to get out.
So for people that when they come up to your home, when they knock on the door and they say there's a mandatory evacuation, we would ask you, please leave. We're not doing it just for the heck of it. We're doing it because there's a reason why. Some people choose to stay in their homes, and they say, "Well, I'll be fine." Unfortunately, what happens is now we have to consider those individuals that are in those homes. Some are unable to get out of their homes. Some they say they're going to be okay, but we always have to consider them in the back of our minds, and that's a resource issue.
Right. Yeah.
When we have these fires, when we respond to them, there's always been a saying that there's no such thing as a fair fight at a brush fire.
Right.
From the outset, you're a little bit overwhelmed by the speed and ferocity of the fire, and you're constantly adding on more and more resources. The peak of this fire, we had over 2,100 firefighters on scene of this.
Yeah.
And people ask, where do these firefighters come from? Well, everywhere. We have a thing called a master mutual aid agreement with not just our agency and the local agencies like Anaheim and Corona, with Newport, Huntington Beach, but also our partner agencies outside of Orange County with Riverside County, CAL FIRE, U.S. Forest, Los Angeles County, San Diego. We have these agreements in place so that when we have fires in Orange County, these resources can come in and assist us. They can give us an additional surge of manpower to deal with the fire. Conversely, when they have situations in their home turf, we actually send resources into their area to assist them. We have enough resources to stay that we keep that behind here in Orange County. We don't empty the whole pantry.
Okay. And that's what I was going to that's what I was going to ask, and not so much for this area, but as we saw up in Santa Rosa, Napa, there are resources coming in throughout the United States for that. And so you wonder, well, if all these resources are up there and all of a sudden something catastrophic happens down here, are we going to have the equipment and the manpower to respond just as quickly?
Yes, and that's part of that master mutual aid agreement. We place on those agreements the amount of manpower and equipment that we can send to you, and the amount of manpower and equipment that we are going to keep for ourselves. We're not going to empty the pantry completely. We're going to keep people back here to deal with our own home turf if those problems occur.
All right, we've got this map that you gave me yesterday, and tell us about this.
Okay.
What the lines mean, the red line, the black line, and looking at the bottom, people may not be able to see this. It says closeout incident map. So tell us what this is about.
Well, this is what we call an operations map.
Okay.
This was the last map that was created for the Canyon 2 incident. Hopefully the viewers at home can see exactly where the lines are. The red lines indicate open fire line. This is line that has not been, they'd say, has not had full containment as of yet.
Okay.
The black line that you see going around the fire is where we actually have containment on the fire. So this is toward the tail end of the fire. I think we had close to 75% containment on the fire when this last map was created. If you want to look up to the upper right-hand corner up by the 91 freeway there in the northwest corner, that's where the fire started, and you can see how the fire moved toward the south in a southwesterly direction. Everything that you see along the western flank of the fire there, where he says Division A and Division B.
Okay.
And when we have these divisions, what people are seeing, we take fires and we actually break them up into geographic pieces of the pie.
Okay.
And so incident commanders have division supervisors who are responsible for that piece of the fire.
Okay.
So you as an incident commander, you can't it's too much to handle for the entire fire. But if you say, all right, you've got these 3-4 miles of the fire front, that is your piece of the pie.
Okay.
So that's what the divisions mean. So as you go down Division Alpha and Bravo here, that is obviously the Anaheim Hills area where we had the incursion into the homes.
Okay.
That creates a challenge, obviously, the home's life, property safety. When you fight these fires, there's two different objectives that we're trying to achieve. Number one is obviously the protection of life and the protection of property.
Right.
So we need to put resources in those neighborhoods. We need to flood it with fire engines. We need to clear those houses. We need to defend those homes against the fire. And that requires firefighters and fire engines. But the other side of the equation is the perimeter control of the fire. You also have to have resources that deal with preventing the fire from getting any larger.
Right.
So you can place lots of resources into these neighborhoods, and that's fine. But the fire, if you don't apply anything towards perimeter control, the fire is just going to get larger and larger and larger. And you're going to be playing defense the entire time, And as firefighters, we want to go on offense against this fire. So as we go down, the lower southwest corner is the Cowan Heights, Tustin area, Orange Park Acres. And as we turn the corner at the bottom and start moving up toward the eastern flank of the fire, this is where we start getting into more of the wildland area. This is the Cleveland National Forest area. And this area, the good news is there's no homes in that area. Bad news is access and the terrain. Now, it's very easy on the western flank of the fire to put resources on the edges of that fire because there's roads going to those homes. I mean, it's very easy. You don't need specialized equipment. I mean, it's very easy to get to all the areas of the fire. Out here, it's wilderness. Anyone who's gone hiking and biking in those areas knows how few trails there are out there. You have actually got to hike with hand crews out there, and you need to cut line as you go. And toward the end of this fire, the areas that you see in the red are the areas that were the hilliest. Okay. And the dozers can't quite get there, and it's just these men and women who are out there. They have to struggle for every yard, every inch of ground and to get that 100% containment. Now, moving on to containment, I'm sure one of the questions that people have is, what does that mean when we say 50% containment or 60% containment?
Versus control.
Right. They're stopping the fire from expanding beyond its original footprint. We call that the forward progress of the fire has been stopped, but we don't have containment yet. And people think, well, if you have 60% containment, does it mean that 40% of the fire is still flaming? Not necessarily. What it means is that's the percentage of the fire that we have a physical fire break around the fire. We put a fire break between 2 and 6 or 7 feet wide, depending on the height of the brush, all the way around this fire. I mean, we are drawing a complete circle around this fire. We're also mopping in 100 to 200 feet into the perimeter, and we go over every square inch of that. And that takes time. It's long work, it's dirty work. It's why after the fire is out, people still see fire units in that area. They ask, what are they doing? Well, we still have to do the perimeter. We still have to get that 100% containment. And even after the containment is done, we still patrol the area. We have to watch out for islands. What these are areas inside the fire perimeter that, for whatever reason, haven't burned. And occasionally they go up. But they're so far from the perimeter of the fire that they don't concern us that much. So we take a look at the location, and if we feel that okay, this is just maybe a 10 by 10 spot that's going to burn out in about 20 minutes, we let that go because we don't need to put the resources and manpower in there to put that out.
Now, what about when someone says it's out of control or it's under control? What does that mean? Is that the same as containment?
Well, no, it's a totally different thing. Out of control is usually the beginning of the fire. We have 0% containment or 5% containment. We're still
it's growing.
We're still growing. We're still growing. There's a lot of different things. First you have to take a look at the fire, and you look at opportunities to go on offense against the fire. And a lot of this is based upon the topography of the area. It's based on the fuel of the area. It's based on the availability of resources and aircraft. At the height of this fire, we had 14 helicopters and almost 8 to 9 fixed-wing aircraft, including the DC-10 that drops the orange Phos-Chek out of the plane. Seeing that plane go by, it's amazing that something that large, moving that slow, can stay in the sky, but apparently it can't. It goes actually into a landing configuration to drop its product. Now, it's a fire retardant that it drops. And people say, well, we're not putting out the fire. What we're doing is we're slowing down the spread of the fire. It buys us time to put in what we call contingency lines, additional fire breaks. So the time the fire does burn through that fire retardant, we're going to be able to have our defenses in place and ready to stop it. There's a lot of small wars going on. It's like fighting a battle, and you have a lot of small battles that are being taken place all around the perimeter of this fire. And each one of those division supervisors is responsible for that one piece of the pie. And everyone works together, and it's sort of a coordinated ballet that we've been doing for almost 30, 40 years.
Right, yeah. Well, you mentioned about evacuations and all, and I want to mention to people that you want to get onto the Alert OC system.
Yes.
And I know I'm on that. We had some folks on the other day talking about that. And I had mentioned that the day that fire started, I was with family, at Disneyland, and all of a sudden we were in a big line to go in something, just dozens and dozens of phones all went off at once.
Right.
And even if you have your phone on silent, that's designed to kick in a warning tone, and everybody was looking down. But
Right.
Check that out. You can also look at the website for them, ocfa.org.
Yes.
And you can get information there. From there, you can see how to get on to Twitter and Facebook and all that, where you find additional information.
Right, and the information is very, very important. Also, have a place to meet your. We ask people if they do have to evacuate their homes, have a place to meet their family that's been pre-designated.
Right.
In today's society, and some people have called it, the Internet of Things. People are very dependent upon those your smartphones. Those smartphones and cell phones are dependent upon cell towers.
Right.
Cell towers operate, on electricity, and if you have a cell tower out in the middle of this fire, and if it burns up, you're not going to have coverage.
Right, and we saw that up north.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me.
Great to see you.
Right.
And again, you can always go online to ocfa.org. They have active incidents going up there constantly. They're not all fires. Most of them are medical.
Medical, yes.
But you can go ahead and look at that, and then you can sign up for Alert OC and sign up for tweets, all kinds of different things, and get information as you need it. Good to see you.
Good to see you
we'll
too,
see you
sir.
again soon.
Thank you
and
very much.
We'll be right back.
Your Laguna Woods History Center, in conjunction